Welcome to Honest Whispers Preview to Sale. On this video I'll be previewing DC Direct's DC Infinite Crisis Action Figures Series 2 Donna Troy. She was released back in May 23rd, 2007. She is approximately 6 3/4 inches tall. The designer is Jimenez because all figures are based on his artwork from the pages of Infinite Crisis. And the sculptor is Greenwell, which is all shown or detailed in the back here on the fine print. And at first glance, if you notice, she basically has this, she literally has the same body mold as Wondergirl. So definitely kind of like a 2-for-1. The only difference is the sculpt of the head, the neck, because she does have like a little collar or choker, and her belt. Also, she comes with a little accessory, while Wonder Girl doesn't come with accessories, but her face of course is different, her belt, and she comes with a golden lasso. So I'm going to go over 6 different categories to review this. First category is design, which covers articulation since it's an action figure, and also the concept and the basic look of it. And if you look at this, initially for Donna Troy figure, which there really isn't much, hardly at all, I could maybe think of one, if not, like, yeah, even off the top of my head, I can't even think of another Donna Troy figure. So this one definitely, for what it is, I like it, but it does have its flaws. First off, articulation. It does have 11 points of articulation. Two knees, the legs, or where at the hip is, wrists, elbows, shoulders, and her neck. Although, keep in mind, a lot of these joints you really can't move much. Like for instance, the neck you really can't move because of the hair. Similar thing or problem with Wonder Woman and Wonder Girl, because when you turn the head, the hair gets in the way. So it's either, even though you can move it, you're really limited to almost zero movement. And as far as the legs, she is in a bit of a predetermined pose, just like all the other girls here. Their hips are slightly swayed to the side, so it's not symmetrical. So when you and at the same time, the joint or the point of articulation right here at her hips, it's been the cut is through her hips. So it's kind of like I would call it like a T joint. So you could only move it forward and back. But then when you do, she's not going to be balanced, and at the same time, you'll start seeing the top of her thighs as it's slightly the way they designed and molded it. Not as bad as Wonder Woman, but then you'll start seeing this seam line up here, and part of her upper thigh kind of stick out, that like little flat area. So for me, that part of the design is a huge flaw. At the same time, when I start looking at other areas, this little accessory is not bad, but it's just like really simple. So nothing too flashy or anything. And at the same time, it's just get that limited I mean, there's really not much poses or different types of poses you can do. You might be able to do something with the arms, but I would think in this position, you're probably better off just kind of more of a standing or arms at the hip or something like that. So the design on this, I give it a pretty good score, a 7 out of 10. Next category is sculpting, and that pretty much covers the execution and details of the figure. So for here, starting with the top, now this is supposed to be based on Phil Jimenez's artwork, and if you read Infinite Crisis, or at least just look at the artwork in there, Donna Troy isn't as skinny as this. You could see in his drawings, he does draw some muscle definition or some muscles on, you know, Wonder Woman, Wonder Girl, and even Donna Troy. So, or most of his female characters, that's supposed to be strong. Although he does have a good balance where he doesn't draw them like over muscular or like bodybuilders. So in this case, I feel like the execution, just like Wonder Girl, execution's a little bit off. And whether if it's design or sculpting, I don't really like the way this one, because she's in an all black costume, you can't really tell as much, but still you can see that her thighs are in this triangular shape, like triangular tube shape, like a case of Toblerone, that Swiss chocolate. So for me, in certain angles, it really gets narrow and tapers down. So this one isn't as bad. Wonder Woman, her legs can get a little bit unproportional looking at certain areas or angles. So this has a similar effect. So this one, the belt is different from Wonder Girl, as I mentioned, and it is pretty accurate with the comic book. So everything else, all the little details, she has her bracelets and her little armbands. Her hair, very nicely done. I really like the way Sam Greenwell got all the strands in a very consistent, you know, just natural flowing way. So it just, to me, it really does look like that. Now the face though, sculpt isn't too bad. I think the jawline's a little bit, just seems a little bit wide, especially when you start comparing to Wonder Girls. And they're supposed to be the same person, so it's just kind of like, looks a little different. Everything else, pretty much, it's not bad. I think the lips, although it might be a paint, because of the paint application, I think the lips are a little wide, at least to the proportion of this face. But I'm just being overcritical. Body, everything, I do like the curves, very nice. Breasts are pretty much like perfect shape. I like how her waist thins out, and then you have that hip kind of swayed to her left. So I do like that look, but in cases like this, there's nothing you can really do with the legs, even though they have points of articulation. I would have just liked it without any articulation. That way you get a nice seamless body, kind of like a minifigure for a PVC figure. Boots are simple, but you do get some little details where the ankles are. Not as much. Virtually, as I mentioned, it's pretty much the same body. Now, I have an issue with the hand, just like Wondergirl. To me, I think it's a little too thin and long. So in certain areas or ankles, I just get this, I can't help but think like alien hands, like those long, thin alien fingers. So like the top, you can see how top of the hand, you have like, I guess the bones kind of like sticking out, so it makes the fingers look even longer than it should be. So that kind of adds the effect to it. I do like her choker for something that small, nice details and everything. So the sculpting, I mean overall it is good, but I really don't like a lot of certain areas that's unproportional. And as I mentioned, the execution feels a little bit off, especially when you're comparing it to Phil Jimenez's artwork. Although keep in mind that's actually Jim Lee's artwork right there. So there's no example or an example to show right now. So the sculpting, I give it an average 5 out of 10. Next category is painting. And painting, as you can see, her costume, one of the most unique and cool looking costumes for something that is kind of simple. I think definitely stands out. And I think overall paintwork, nicely done. So it is accurate, but I do want to point some things out. Now, her costume is supposed to be like basically like if you're staring into the stars. It's always changing, and it's supposed to have that Starboy effect from Starboy costumes effect from Legion of Superheroes. My thing with this is I would have rather seen like little stars, whether if it's something simple like a 4-point star, you know, not like a 5-point star like drawn like that, but something like you know, like a 4-point, 8-point, something small where it has points rather than dots. So this one, they did do a pretty good job with the big dots, small dots, and then clustering them in certain areas. So it doesn't look like she's wearing like this simple polka dotted costume. But still, I feel like it would have had that starry look or effect more down if it actually had stars, little stars rather than little dots or circles. But color is pretty good. I would have liked, of course, somewhere with like gloss finish. Other than that, very minor issues. Her left side of the costume, very straight lines. Her middle, very straight. And then you come here, ironically, her right side of the costume, you get this like unfinished line, or even like certain part of the line where it kind of goes over the border. Or rather, you could even see how the skin tone goes over the border. And I say ironic because for Wondergirl, her error is the slight error is on her left side, and her right side is like perfectly painted. Although, well, I wouldn't say perfect, but you could see that the line is straight, but then it's slightly off the edge. So another issue here would be the armband. Her left armband, you could see skin tone color on the side of the edge. Otherwise, like other areas, like they look clean because all the silver is on the edge, so you don't have this weird skin color sticking out like a sore thumb. Although from far away you really can't see it as well. So boots, everything greatly colored. Now the eyes though. Eyes are symmetrical in a sense, but you could see right here, her left eye, the shape of the eyes and the size of the eyes are off. Her left eye is actually bigger than her right eye. So it looks like she's slightly googly-eyed, even though they're aligned straight. It's just slight. I mean, you have to look really close because from slight distance, it's harder to tell. But when you're looking very up close, like certain angles, not as bad. But that one front angle, I thought it was very noticeable. Right? It looks like she has one eye slightly opened wider, or it's like you could even tell her left eye, it just seems like it's closer to the bridge of her nose than her right eye. So I give that a huge flaw. I mean, it could have been perfect too. I mean, they get these little collar down and everything, and yet they can't get the eye symmetrical. So still, overall it is better. And then if I had to compare with Wondergirls, I think the painting on this is slightly better. So I give the grade 8 out of 10 on the painting. Next category is packaging. Packaging, basically just like the other two. It's a nice blister card packaging, or some others will say bubble card packaging. Although it's a simple type of packaging, this one does have some little intricate standout designs, how part of that edge is cut out rather than just the same rectangular shape. Also, the base of the action figure is the logo of the packaging. So as I mentioned on the other videos, I think that's very clever and ingenious. Everything's the same, everything's universally the same. The back, and of course the little background that looks like it's like light flashing, and the only difference is that sticker, the name sticker. So beyond that, it is a cost-effective way to package, but at the same time, there's no uniqueness to the packaging. So I give it a small hit, but still overall very nicely done. And as you can see on this packaging, condition is very good. Only a ding right there on the top, minor ding right here on the top right there as well. Let me see if I can get that better focus on that one. And then the bottom corner, just like a slight ding. Maybe you can't even call it a ding. Yep, so everything else pretty much sharp, no creases, no tears. So I give the packaging grade an 8 out of 10. Not the great condition, but the actual package, the way they designed and executed it. If I had to give the package great condition for this one, I would say C9, really. I mean, there's, other than those minor flaws, really can't see anything else. Definitely displayable. Next category is value. Value basically for me is retail versus aftermarket, and does this have value where it will continue to rise in the aftermarket value. So if there's a lot of demand to it, or if it's very popular or very rare, that really adds to the value score for me. This case, I bought this around like in 2007 when it first came out at a comic book store for around, I would say like 10-12 bucks. I can't really remember exactly. I think these action figures were around like $12.99 if I recall correctly. And now when I last checked, Donna Troy, whether eBay or Amazon, the lowest price is $25. And the next lowest would be like $25 plus shipping. So it came out to be like $30, $31 or something like that. So her value is pretty much same as Wondergirl. I didn't see any loose figures or used figures for sale. So this one, the value is pretty good, but at the same time, for something that's over 10 years old, I would have hoped or expected a little bit more. So in this case, I give the value score a good above average 7 out of 10. So last category is overall. Overall, of course, is just basically accumulating, or taking account to all the 5 prior categories: design, sculpting, painting, packaging, and value. And for me, just as a Wonder Woman fan and being a fan of like pretty much most of all Wonder Woman family characters, I do like Donna Troy. I personally like Wonder Girl, or Donna Troy as Wonder Girl, that costume a little bit more, but from an unbiased point of view, I think the costume and everything just turned out a little bit more better. Of course, the design of her costume just makes it stand out a little bit. So for me, everything overall is great. As I mentioned, other than some critical parts like her thighs, hand, and her eyes, everything else turned out great. So it's almost unfortunate that I have to let this go as well, but it is basically space versus, space and financial reasons versus I guess other figures and statues that I like more or would like to use on my limited space. So either way, good value, good execution, overall. As I mentioned, I would have, if I had to make changes, I would have made the face, especially on this one, a little bit more feminine. The jawline does make it look a little bit more masculine than the other two. To me, this is the best face out of the 3. And for me, the hand, I would have either shortened the fingers a little bit or just make it a little bit thicker on the hand area so it doesn't look so thin and out of proportion. And if you kind of like how you say, like fold or bend her arm all the way down, I mean the tip of her finger is gonna be closer to her knees. I would say like the lower part of her thighs. Well, it's not gonna hit the knees, but I'm just saying it's gonna be pretty close. So that right there gives you an idea of how slightly unproportional it can be. Now her neck, the way her head is placed and the neck chin sticks out, this one isn't as bad as Wonder Woman, but it is slightly, I think it slightly sticks out more than Wonder Girl. But Wonder Girl has kind of her head tilted down. So other than those minor flaws, I really do like this figure. And as I mentioned, for a Donna Troy figure, very rare. And overall, I mean, it does look good though. It doesn't look over like masculine or ugly or anything. Like it looks more, it's more towards the better looking side than the bad looking side. So overall, I give the score a 7 out of 10. To recap, design, 7 out of 10. Sculpting, 5 out of 10. Painting, 8 out of 10. Packaging, 8 out of 10. Value, 7 out of 10. And overall, 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Until next time. Reread Infinite Crisis if you did.